Nootsie, and today I have a very special guest with me. And I have Jennifer Temple, and she is a friend of mine, but she's also an Ayurvedic practitioner. And I can't wait for you to get to know her. I think you're going to find her very interesting, and she's going to give us lots of good information. So, without waiting any longer, I want to introduce Jennifer Temple. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, Nootsie. Oh, it's so good to see you. It's been way too long.
It has been way too long. Well,
Yeah.
I'm really excited that you're here. And Jennifer and I met at a Dr. Joe event in September of 2019. And you were my first ever Ayurvedic practitioner that I met. And so I would love for you to give people the Cliff Notes version of what an Ayurvedic practitioner actually does.
Yeah. So I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. And to make it more understandable, it's basically just a holistic medicine practitioner. So I look at the body as a whole unit, the mind and the body. You cannot separate the mind and the body. And for me, this is what really resonated for me when I was at a stage where I really, really needed to heal my body. So, to make a long story short, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at a fairly young age. And when I finished all the treatments and surgeries and all that, after a couple of years of that, I just came out of it going, I am never going through that again, ever. And so I knew I had to find a new way to live my life, both physically and emotionally. I just didn't know how to do that. Up until that point, I tried to heal my body and all the symptoms I had, even before the breast cancer. Too many to list, to be honest. I just tried to heal that with eating perfectly, exercising, all that. I didn't want to look at the emotional piece because it's messy and it's like, surely I don't need to do that part. But I met this woman, you can call it divine timing, whatever you want to call it. She introduced me to Ayurveda. And I would have done anything this woman had said. I didn't know at the time she was in her 70s. She was so radiant and so glowing. And I knew whatever she was doing was different than 99% of the population, especially at her age. And she said, she was a stranger. She said, "You want to ask me something, don't you?" Because I was just staring at her. And I said, "Yes, but honestly, I have no idea what." And she said, "Go home and look up the word Ayurveda." And I said, "Okay." And I went home, and within 5 minutes of Googling Ayurveda, I knew I had found what I was looking for. And that just started a 5 year journey of reading every single book I could find on Ayurveda, then finding my practitioner, then going to school to become a practitioner. And it literally, it's not an understatement to say it transformed my life. I got rid of all of my symptoms. And yeah, so a lot of people had never heard of Ayurveda, let alone meet someone who's an actual practitioner of that. So I help women move through perimenopause and menopause. That's kind of my focus of my practice right now, feeling amazing and balanced in all the systems of their body.
That's exciting. Um, and
Love it.
and you have a beautiful website. And tell people about the master class that you offer. That is really cool.
So that's something, after Dr. Joe retreat, my whole way of, I used to be, and I'm still quite introverted. I would never have put myself out on social media or a master class or any of that. But when I realized how helpful Ayurveda is, especially for women going through menopause, I almost felt it was my obligation to share the information. So I did a master class with everything that was, true to my heart with Ayurveda, my experience of balancing my hormones and digestive health, immune system, nervous system, all of that coming back into balance. So I put this class out there, and the response was overwhelming. And I just get compliments all the time. I loved your master class. I've never heard that perspective on menopause before. And thank you so much. It made so much sense. I just knew in my heart the body knows how to heal itself. we're taught differently, right? In our medical system, that menopause just means it's over.
You're drying up. Your days are over.
That's right. Yeah. And I really, really wanted an opportunity to change the narrative on what it means to pass through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause for women. A much more exciting narrative than what we're being dealt. That's for sure.
Well, you are, if it's possible, you are more lovely than when I met you in September of 2019. And let's talk just for a minute about our meeting at the Niagara Falls Dr. Joe retreat. I think there was 1,650 people there, and you and I ended up in the same group. So why don't you tell your take on it?
Sure. Yeah. I was so excited to go to that retreat. And January 9th of that year, I will never forget that night because I was in a funky moment. I call them gutter moments, when you feel like you're in the gutter and it's really hard to come out. And I stomped around the house and I just went, I am going to a Dr. Joe retreat this year. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to one of the week longs. Because up until that point, I'd read his books, I'd done some meditations. And I didn't realize I'd have to wait so long because that was January, but it was great because I got to do, his online courses a bit and really immerse myself into his work. So couldn't be more excited leading up to September, and went to the retreat. And the first night, I remember walking at the back of the conference room, and I literally was hit by this, all I can describe is this wave of love. It was just like I walked into a wall of energy and love, and I started crying. And I just went, oh, that's what I came here for. And then I saw you. We were in the same group and we did all the introductions. And I just thought, oh, wow, what a vibrant, happy, and your name was Nootsie. It's just like, yo. And so we ended up sitting together. You and I were, I would say, the keeners. We were as close to the front as we possibly could get. And we started talking. And then the next day I came in and I noticed there was a seat saved beside you, and it was for me. It's like, oh, how exciting. And then the next morning, the seat was saved again. And the next morning, and then we just really connected. There was about 4 of us, I think, but you and I were like, okay, we need to be together through this because we are both just as enthusiastic about this week as the other person.
Yeah, it was really exciting. You were, kind of like my safety blanket, and I have to get there early, because it was so many people, it was overwhelming, and so I was saving you a spot because they do he does the teaching, and then we talk to each other, and then
Yeah.
you and I just had these amazing conversations. Like, they were amazing conversations, and so
Yeah.
I was super thankful. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share about your awakening experience.
No, please do.
So,
It was
so
so exciting.
you do the lead up, and then I'll take it after that.
Okay. So the week was fabulous. The meditations were great. The breath work was amazing. I think you and I really went for the breath, and it was, there was a few pretty intense moments to say the least. But um, on the Wednesday, Dr. Joe had announced he always does some type of challenge, whether it's a physical challenge. And this was a new thing for him. He wanted to do it. I don't really like the word challenge, but really an opportunity to meditate all day with, you could go out for food if you wanted to, but you and I looked at each other and we went, we're all in. Like I'm not going to drink water just so I don't have to get up to go pee. Like, really, I wanted that experience because I don't get that experience at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so that day was a lot of emotions coming up, a lot of overcoming myself. And then you lie down and then you sit up, and it was back and forth. And then you're breathing. And somewhere around the 5th or 6th hour of that day, we were in a lying down part of the meditation. I felt this energy start moving in my body. And I'm so, so grateful. Dr. Joe had explained and described this energy and how powerful it was so that I could understand what was happening in my body. And it was so specific. It was the upper third portion of my thighs. It just started to feel like this almost like fiery energy. And then I just relaxed into it as Dr. Joe instructs. Don't resist it. Don't try and like, ooh, I'm having one of those moments. Just keep relaxing into it, surrendering. And when I did, it was just like, I felt like I was plugged into the strongest electrical current you could ever imagine. And I totally lost track of time. But all I remember is my mouth hurt so much because I was smiling. Like it was the most intense smile I've ever had. And I was holding my hands, like gripping right here, because I felt if I didn't do that, I would blow wide open. And my life has never been the same since that moment. I connected to that source energy that he talks about and that I've read about and that I thought I understood. And it was so beautiful. And for days and weeks and months, to be honest, after that, I had these, I call them aftershocks, where you just be walking or sitting and all of a sudden there's that energy and it jolts you. And my body needed time to process that amount of energy.
So I was laying next to you, and obviously I had my eye patch on or my mask on, and literally you did start to tremble. Like you started to tremble and kind of make noises. And I have told you before, it's like you went off like a Roman candle. Like there were flashes of light of
Mhm.
colors. It was pink and blue and
Wow.
white, and it was like it literally was like you were plugged into an electrical socket, or you were getting a whole new wiring. And there were noises, and you were trembling, and it was amazing. I couldn't see you, but I could see you, you know, spiritually or energetically what was happening to you, and it was absolutely beautiful. And you were after shortly after you were finished is when they woke up, and you were holding your chest like this, and you had the biggest grin on your face, and tears were just coming down your face. It was really one of the most beautiful moments I've experienced, with someone else other than myself. And I think what it did for me is it made me brave, like to trust that energy, to open up to it.
Mm. Yeah, you were so great because we became quite close before that day. And when I finally realized I was in that room, I knew you were on the right of me. And so I reached out and your hand was right there. And I can't remember what you said, but really the whole feeling was that was beautiful. I'm here for you. And I got the same feeling with the guy sitting on the left of me. And it was amazing. And I never understood. And so that experience really deepened my knowledge of Ayurveda because I like to say Dr. Joe really is kind of a modern Ayurveda just because the whole purpose of Ayurveda, which I'd read about but didn't understand or embody, was that we eat foods that are right for our constitution or our dosha. We do certain lifestyle things that are balancing to our bodies. We do all that to make our bodies a vessel to connect to that source energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ayurveda is a conscious based healing system, meaning that in order to experience a life full of bliss and joy and energy and have that healthy, happy glow, you need a connection to that source energy. The food and diet lifestyle stuff will get you so far, but that connection is what gives people that, oh, just that glow from within,
Yep.
right?
There's not enough lotions and potions from the outside to get the kind of glow that you have.
And I feel glowing. I really do. I feel radiant. And
Mm-hmm.
it's since I have that connection. And that connection, when I finally kind of came to terms with, okay, that connection's always there. It's up to me if I want to put my attention on it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because life gets busy and you're like, okay, I'm just going to dip into my room for 5 minutes. Oh, it's right there. Okay. Yeah, I'm back on track. And I never realized, there was a part of me when I did find that connection that was quite sad, just because I remember thinking, has this always been here? And I never knew about it. I've had access to this energy since I was born and I never tapped into it. And then, that kind of quickly dissipated when I said to myself, how are you to know? You were doing the best you can in survival mode for your whole life. How are you to know that this energy was there? You can't just read about it. You have to adopt a practice that promotes and nourishes that connection with that energy. And so that's everything else in my life is revolves around making sure I have time for that connection every morning and every night to meditate.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk for a few minutes because we both, had these amazing experiences, and then the next 6 months they were a
Mm-hmm.
little, well, that whole week, I remember I would see you, and when we would go out for food or whatever, when we'd have breaks, and you'd do that little twitchy thing the whole rest of the time. But talk about like kind of what you experienced for 6 months.
Yeah. So after that, it was, I would say, a wild ride. That energy was inside me now, and it was at an amplitude that I don't think I could fully process. And so I'd have these twitches, just as I understand them now, is that energy is moving and it's finding blockages. So when it hits a block, it twitches, right? It's trying to get past that energetic block. And so around 6 o'clock every night, oh, here comes that energy. It didn't seem to matter what I was doing that day. 6 o'clock, I'd be sitting and like, oh, okay, here we go. And I had to go into my room to meditate because if I didn't, I couldn't do anything. It was so intense, that energy. And I learned how to move that energy. And the more I became familiar with that energy, the more my body was able to process that large amount of energy. And the twitching eventually stopped. I still get them during meditations, but not just randomly walking down the street or talking to someone and your neck fully just cracks into some alignment for that energy to move better. But there was a lot of confusion. After those times, it literally was this awakening that I was trying to understand from not only an intellectual level, but from an emotional and a spiritual level as well. I loved every minute of it, even the messy stuff, because I knew it was like what Dr. Joe says, the death of the old self.
Mm-hmm.
And as that energy was moving, I knew it was clearing out garbage, emotional garbage that I've lived with for so long. And I started to smell like and being an Ayurvedic practitioner, this was quite offensive to me because I haven't worn deodorant since I started practicing Ayurveda. I don't smell.
Mm-hmm.
And I was quite put off by it. I'm like, why am I smelling? And so I started having, because I had no one really to talk to about these things. I started having to Google energy awakening, kundalini awakening, smelly armpits. The searches were so funny what I searched up in those 6 months following that day. And I realized, oh, this is actually something. You're cleaning out your cells of emotional garbage, toxic stuff. And we like to think of toxins as physical toxins from an environment or our food, but they are just as relevant. Emotional toxins have a smell to them.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, though, it was COVID shortly after that, the 5 months after that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to shut my business down. And I had all this time now to meditate. And I was so grateful for the world coming to this kind of standstill,
Mm-hmm.
because I really wanted longer periods of time in this connection phase. And I got that hours every day. And I'm so grateful. I don't have the time to do that anymore, but I still do my mornings and my nights. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful to have that time to get to know this energy, because it felt like it was me, but not me at the same time.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It was confusing for me as well. And, I found my way of learning how to allow that energy to have its way with me is the only way that I can describe it,
Mm,
because as it moves through you and it hits blockages, if I would fight it, I would be in misery. And if I would open up and allow that energy to move whatever was blocking me. So it was very much a trial and error experience. But one of the things that I would love for you to address, and I know you feel the same way that I do, you don't have to have a kundalini awakening to be awakened. It's not a one-off experience. I literally try to make my day like a Dr. Joe retreat. I dance in the morning, and I do my breath work, and I have had, since my awakening and since my healing, I've had many experiences in the privacy of my own home and deeper levels of awakening. So kind of tell people what your thoughts are on that.
I fully agree, Nootsie. It's as much as I'm grateful for that kind of spectacular Roman candle experience, that the way you describe, I've never heard that. That's great. I remember you emailed me a picture of this body with all these electricity lightning bolts coming off, and you said that was you. I'm like, that was me. But what I've come to realize is I've had many experiences since then, as you say, in the comfort of my own home. And what I love about Dr. Joe's testimonials is they put a lot of focus during COVID on testimonials that people healed themselves at home. And I just thought that was brilliant, because to an outsider, you would think you have to go to a retreat to heal yourself. You absolutely don't. I'm definitely going back to a retreat because it was fun. Really, it was fun. And I got to meet so many people, and obviously we got to meet. But the real work is day to day. And I had an experience at the retreat because leading up until that point, I didn't miss a day. And it's really what you're doing at home during the day is what really sets you up for that energy to awaken inside of you, whether or not you're at the retreat or not.
It's so true. It's so true. And I was the same. We went September, I think it was 19th, and from January 2nd to September 19th, I didn't miss a day. I did the work, I did the progressive, I did the online, I listened to, you and I both had it in common that we listened to all the testimonials. Like, I didn't miss one testimonial.
All of them.
I did too. I did too.
I was so funny because I have this book. I still have it going. I still watch all the testimonials. And this is, almost 3 years later, I have this book, and I have titles: breast cancer, Parkinson's, MS, anxiety. And every testimonial I watch, I write it under the heading, because I never wanted to forget of what's actually possible. No matter what anyone tells you, stage 4 breast cancer, whatever it is, I go to my book. Here's the proof. All of these people have healed from things that they were told will never heal. And I really still love the testimonies. I know I've missed some now, but during that time up until 2019, September, watched them, and some of them numerous times.
Same here. I watch some of them. I watch over and over and over and over again. Yeah.
One day we'll have to compare what ones we've watched over and over.
We will, for sure. Well, I want to talk a little bit about, I contacted you because I was wanting to do a video on ghee, because it's really an important part of what I do to keep myself healthy. And I'm like, who do I know? And I was like, oh my God. So you were kind enough to come on. So I would love from your perspective, because it's an Ayurvedic staple, correct?
It's the cornerstone oil of Ayurveda. Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to talk about it from your perspective and just tell people how valuable it really is.
Okay. I could talk about ghee for hours, but I'll keep as you say, the Coles Notes version. So ghee is, it's been traditionally used in Ayurveda for over 5,000 years. And the way it was traditionally made was, the cow is an animal. This is why Ayurveda has such respect for the cow, is because they're one of the few animals that has more milk than what the calf can actually drink. And so it's a sign that it's providing this nourishment for its human caretakers, right? And so this overflow of milk was turned into ghee.
That's
And
beautiful. I've never heard that. That's absolutely beautiful.
it
Really?
is, it really is. It's this gift the cow gives to humanity. Yeah, because it is so nourishing. And so the ghee was made in small batches. And everyone kind of, if you've ever heard of ghee, everyone will just say, oh, it's just clarified butter, right? You're just clarifying the milk solids out of the, so it's separate. You've got the liquid gold, which I call, and then the milk solids will either rise to the top or they'll sink to the bottom. So then when you strain it, you've taken all the, the lactose and the milk solids, everything's out, and you just have this pure liquid gold.
Hmm.
And it's so amazing. So I make my own ghee all the time. I have for years, and it's really easy to make. But the difference between ghee and clarified butter is it's cooked slower and longer, and it almost has this nutty smell to it. You know when it's done, when it smells almost like popcorn, is the way my daughters kind of describe when I'm making it. And I can tell just by looking, and I can tell by the sound of when it's done. So then I strain it, and oh, I should have brought my big jar. I've got this big jar of ghee that I always have. And when it starts to get low, I'm like, time to make some more, because I haven't really gone a day without ghee in years.
Wow.
So ghee is what is inside ghee, right? So not only is it very nourishing because it's heavy, it's oily, all these things that are counter, it really heals the system. A lot of us are really dry. A lot of people suffer from constipation, dry skin, dry hair. Anxiety is actually dryness as well in the brain and or in the mind. And it's this ghee is nourishing to our tissues. And so remind me if I forget to talk a little bit about why in Ayurveda we use ghee to cleanse. It sounds funny using butter oil to cleanse. Most people think of cleansing as water fast or juice fast, but in Ayurveda, we take ghee in quite large amounts internally to detoxify the cells. So I want to make sure I don't forget a few points on that. But so one of the main ingredients in ghee is butyric acid. Yeah, butyric acid. There's some say butyric, but butyric acid is, and here's the coolest thing about butyric acid. So modern day science now, gastroenterologists, people who specialize in the gut microbiome, all of this, which is very, I would say, popular and necessary right now, is they're showing that fiber, we need way more fiber. Everyone's on a big protein kick. We need more protein. We need way more fiber. And so the reason why we need more fiber is the food for the microbiota. And what the microbiota does is they turn it into butyric acid. And butyric acid has been shown to decrease inflammation, to heal the gut lining, improve your digestion, improve your mental clarity, cognitive skills, all of this. And ghee is that. And so some people say that your microbiome produces its own ghee, but it's just another saying it's producing butyric acid. And so ghee is a really good way of internally taking the butyric acid. And so this butyric acid is the main food for your colon. This is what your colon needs for energy. And this is why in Ayurveda, people with constipation, the number one way that we treat it is with ghee. It lubricates all the channels to keep things moving along, to make it, in a nice way of saying it. So some of the things that I noticed right away when I started using ghee daily was my hair. My hair became so shiny. It started growing in way thicker than one of my symptoms I had was I lost about half of my hair within a year. And that was part of the hormonal imbalance, very common for hormonal imbalances to lose hair. And when I started taking ghee, I ended up with more hair than I did before I started losing it. And it felt shiny. And my skin, it used to be really dry and flaky. I had rosacea for a long time. And oh, I still, every time I touch my skin, it's like, oh, I love the feel of my skin. It's so soft. And so those are the things you notice right away. Yeah, right away.
And so, how would you recommend that people start using it? Like, what would you like if
Yeah.
somebody who is not using it at all? Where would they begin?
Yeah, good question. So I always start people, depending on the imbalance, but just for general way to start using ghee is you can stir a teaspoon into each meal.
Hmm.
So say you're having oatmeal in the morning, just stir a teaspoon into that. If you're having some rice and some lentils or something for lunch, stir a teaspoon into that. And for certain doshas, so if you know anything about the doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha, vatas are the really dry ones, the anxious ones, the more I call them the beanpole, right? And the kaphas are the more the rounder body frames. They have more oil in their body. So a kapha type is going to need way less ghee as a vata type. And so vatas, most of the imbalances have to do with dryness, arthritis, constipation, anxiety, dry skin, all of these things. And pittas as well. They're the fire. And ghee, even though it looks like an oil, it's actually very cooling to the digestive system. It's really nice. So that's a really good way to start. That's from a cooking perspective. You can take it to kind of a cosmetic or a beauty perspective. And ghee, if you have bloodshot eyes, putting a drop of ghee or just making sure you have a clean finger and rubbing ghee inside on your eyeballs really helps with red eyes. Another Ayurvedic practice, which is part of our dinacharya, which is the morning routine, the self-care things we do every morning, which I love, which I do all that after my meditation, is a practice called Nasya. And it sounds funny, but Nasya is using oil to internally massage the inside of your nostrils. And so the reason is a lot of people who have excess mucus, postnasal drip, that's the body's way of overcompensating dryness. And so if you're dry, the body will go, oh, we need way more mucus to soothe it. But what happens is it completely overshoots it. And now you're getting the postnasal drip. And
Huh.
so if you put oil in your nose, and you can use ghee, it sounds strange. You put ghee. So what I do is I'll put a little bit of ghee or I'll use sesame oil, not the Asian toasted one, just the unrefined sesame oil, clean finger, and you rub it in your palm and you massage it as far up as you comfortably can. And you go, you sniff on that side, you do it the other side. And I do that 2 or 3 times each side. It prevents, I had postnasal drip for years. I went to ears, nose, and throat specialists, and they just said, there's nothing we can do. But when I started oiling my nose with ghee or sesame oil, my body stopped producing that excess mucus. And
Fascinating.
it is fascinating. And some people, some Ayurvedic people, um, will just use it as cream. Literally, they use it as cream or a massage oil.
Hmm.
And I don't personally, because I don't like the smell of ghee all over my body. But I have tried it and I can vouch that it really does make your skin feel really nice. You actually don't feel that greasy. It's just, I don't want to smell like ghee. Yeah.
So, if someone wanted to do like a cleanse using ghee just to kind of get their body hydrated, what would you recommend they do?
Yeah, and so that's a good we do cleanse with ghee and you would have to be under supervision to do a full ghee cleanse. And just maybe for a little shock value, I'll just explain that you start off your morning on an empty stomach drinking increasing amounts of ghee. So you'll increase from anywhere between 1 tablespoon to half a cup of ghee on an empty stomach. And um, it's an experience. And so what happens is all of that ghee, you become literally saturated inside of you. Your cells become saturated with ghee. And a lot of emotional toxins and a lot of environmental toxins are fat soluble. So to get fat soluble toxins out, you need fat. You can't just get them out with water. And another thing of all that ghee, it causes your gallbladder to contract all the old bile. And so now you've got fresh liver, fresh gallbladder. It sounds counterproductive to use ghee to detoxify your body, but there's enough science now to show that it's and it's feeding all your intestinal lining with that butyric acid. So, but a good place to start would be, with my clients, what I do is I don't take them through the 7-day cleanse unless I'm working one-on-one with them. We just do a short 3-day cleanse where we're eating khichdi for 3 days straight. And khichdi is just that traditional, what is that? Khichdi is a traditional cleansing dish of Ayurveda. It's an equal combination of white basmati rice and yellow split mung beans with certain spices like cumin and coriander and turmeric. And you just make it kind of like a porridge. It's delicious. I eat it all the time. And it's really easy to digest. And that's why it's used for cleansing. And you can start by putting increasing amounts of ghee. So I would start with a teaspoon on the first day in each meal. Then you could increase to 2 teaspoons. And then by the third day, you would have a tablespoon in each meal. And that's going to be suitable for any of the doshas. Beyond that, then you would really need to be working with a practitioner to make sure you're doing it right.
Wow, exciting. Well, you must come back and tell us some more. I would love to know about the morning routine, just to give people some tips, because I don't even think it's possible, but you really are just absolutely more glowing and more beautiful than when I first met you. And that's one thing I noticed about your hair when we first met. It was so shiny and thick. I always wanted to kind of touch it.
There you go.
But you are a living example of what the lifestyle of Ayurveda does for people.
Oh, thank you, Nootsie. Yeah, no, I appreciate the compliments, and I feel amazing. I really, really do. It's that connection with source energy, but all the things I do for myself, for an Ayurvedic lifestyle, it works. It works.
Tell people a little bit about some of your offerings. I was looking at your website, and it really is beautiful, by the way.
I love my website. A little shout out to Ben, who does my website for me. I just say, hey, Ben, I'd love to have this. And it's like, there it is. I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I wanted. So in the past, I worked with individuals just here in my office where I'm sitting right now, but COVID really changed that. And I took that opportunity I really wanted to reach more women, and I knew my passion was helping women move through menopausal symptoms. So I have a 6-month program now where I work with women. We do an individual kind of analysis of what's going on based on their tongue. The tongue says so much from a diagnostic perspective in Ayurveda. So I do an analysis on someone, the tongue, their intake form, their eyes. And then I set them down the path of foods that are going to balance their body for the 6 months and foods to avoid. It's very different for each person. And then everyone enters the same online program, and you go through that for 6 months. And I love the program. It's truly my experience of Ayurveda. It's food, it's health, it's fun. I'm big on dancing. And so, it's a fun program that we do. But my favorite part about the program is every week while you're going through the program, you get to meet with me on a group support call every week for an hour and a half. And I never wanted it to be a program where, all right, here you go, Nootsie, have fun with that. See ya, I hope it works out. Because as human nature, as we know, we really do need support when we are trying to become someone else. And that's the type of women I'm looking to work with, are women who are ready to become someone else, their best selves, their highest selves. So I love being able to connect now with women from all over the States and Canada. And we meet in these groups. And to see the changes are nothing short of amazing,
Mm.
whether it's weight loss or hot flashes or fibroids, whatever it is, whatever your thing you're going through in menopause. Ayurveda truly believes that your body can get back to that original blueprint of perfect health.
Mm.
We just need to give it the right environment to do that.
So if people go on your website and just connect with you, can they have just like some time with you, like a one-on-one time?
Yeah. So, what I suggest, if this kind of piqued your interest about Ayurveda, go onto my website, purelyayurveda.ca. It's a long word, but and on there you'll see learn more about the 6 month program, or you can watch the master class. And at the end of the master class, or on the page where it's talking about the program, you'll see just a button. It just says book a free discovery call. And anyone can book a call with me, and they're an hour. And it's really just to see if Ayurveda would work for you. And I had a call this morning and just from a woman from San Diego. It's like, wow, I get to talk with someone from San Diego. And
Mm-hmm.
so anyone can book a free call with me. It's just me. You're not sent off to talk to someone else because I actually really like the calls. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll list everything below and
Okay.
put the link so people can get a hold of you. But thank you so much. It's so I just like it's like going home, like getting to talk with you.
I feel the same, Nootsie. When you emailed me, I was like, oh, Nootsie, I get to see her. And
Yeah.
I know we'll see each other again at an
Yeah.
event or anything.
Yeah.
But it was so nice talking with you. And I'm so happy just the changes that have happened for you
Yeah.
too. And
They're
just
amazing.
these interviews, I just know they're helping so many people understand really what this is all about.
Thank you so much. So maybe we can do it again, but thank you. Till next
Yeah,
time. Okay,
sounds
bye.
good. Bye, Nootsie.